Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're diving into something that literally redrew the map of America and totally upended its economy. I'm talking about the 1849 California Gold Rush. You know, when we hear the words gold rush, our brains usually jump straight to this sort of romanticized myth, right? We picture some lucky prospector dipping a pan into a sparkling mountain stream and pulling out instant life-changing wealth. But as we're gonna see, the real story? It's a wildly fascinating and honestly pretty grim tale of massive expectations crashing headfirst into a very harsh reality.
Just to wrap our heads around the sheer, absolute madness of what happened in California, let's look at a number: $17 billion. That is the estimated modern value of the 12 million ounces of gold ripped out of the ground during this frantic, chaotic 7-year window. I mean, we are talking about a transfer of wealth right out of the dirt that changed global history. But how did this whole frenzy actually kick off?
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. It's a super quiet, peaceful morning on January 24th, 1848. A guy named James W. Marshall is just out there checking a water ditch for a new sawmill his crew is building at Sutter's mill. Suddenly, he spots something shiny, maybe 6 inches underwater. He grabs it, pounds this little piece of sediment with a rock, and it flattens out instead of shattering. He immediately runs over to his crew and drops this exact line: "Boys, by God, I believe I found a gold mine."
Part 1. A spark in the river.
So the owner of the mill, John Sutter, actually tried to keep the whole thing under wraps. And you can't blame him. He wanted to protect his 48,000 acres of gorgeous forested land. He knew the second word got out, his property would just get completely overrun. But the secret this huge? Yeah, it didn't stay quiet for long. And a lot of that had to do with the local geology. See, unlike gold in other parts of the world, when you have to dig deep underground, California's gold had been washing down the mountains from centuries of erosion. It was just sitting there right in the rivers. So in the beginning, you didn't need heavy machinery. Placer mining works just because gold is way heavier than gravel. All a hopeful prospector really needed was a shallow, flat pan, a trusty shovel, and a dream. You just scoop up the riverbed, swirl the water around, and boom, the heavy, shiny flakes just sit right there at the bottom.
Part 2. Gold fever spreads worldwide.
Let's move along and see how this builds, because with the barrier to entry literally being just a pan and a shovel, this fever spread fast. By May of 1848, a local store owner named Sam Brannan is literally parading through the streets of San Francisco, holding up a glass bottle packed with gold dust and just bellowing about the discovery to anyone who would listen. Within weeks, San Francisco is practically a ghost town. Everybody bolted for the hills. But the real tipping point, that came in December of 1848. That's when U.S. President James K. Polk officially verified the rumors, right in his State of the Union address. That single moment flipped this from a local rumor to an absolute global phenomenon. Think about it. Back then, a lot of folks were making less than $1 a day. This was the ultimate lottery ticket. By 1849, an unbelievable 90,000 people, the famous 49ers, had descended on California.
Part 3. The perilous journey west.
Now, getting there was a whole different story. The Easterners rushing out west were mostly, male clerks, teachers, lawyers, guys with absolutely zero outdoor survival skills. They said goodbye to their families, completely expecting to just scoop up some gold and head right back. But just reaching California was a total geographic nightmare, and this brilliantly illustrates what they were up against. If you went by sea, you basically had two awful choices. Option A, sail all the way down the East Coast, navigate the insanely dangerous waters around the tip of South America at Cape Horn, and then sail all the way back up the Pacific. We're talking a brutal 6 to 8 month voyage. Option B, take the so-called shortcut through Panama, which meant getting off the boat, canoeing and hiking your way across 60 miles of extremely dangerous jungle, and then basically just crossing your fingers that you could flag down another ship on the Pacific side.
The reality of these trips was just shockingly grim. Let's say you bought the cheapest ship ticket. That sets you back about $75, which, by the way, is roughly $2,300 today. And what did that get you? A dark, cramped bunk in the bottom of a ship, surviving on dried meat and rock-hard biscuits that were crawling with bugs called weevils. Absolutely gross. And the Panama shortcut? That exposed you to deadly snakes, yellow fever, and malaria. Oh, and if you decided to travel by land across the US, you were dealing with freezing blizzards, starvation, and the devastating spread of cholera along the trails.
Speaking of the overland route, taking the California Trail meant loading up a wagon pulled by oxen. On a perfect day, you might cover 15 miles. 15! And then you hit the mountains. Suddenly, these clerks and teachers had to figure out how to lug these massive, heavy wagons up impossibly steep inclines. In some spots, they actually had to lower the wagons down vertical cliffs using ropes. It was brutal. By the fall of 1849, the trail was just this tragic landscape littered with discarded belongings, dead livestock, and sadly, makeshift graves.
Part 4. The harsh mining reality.
All right, so let's say you defied all the odds. You survived the ocean, the diseases, the mountains, and you finally make it to California. What's waiting for you? Well, this is where that whole romantic myth of the wealthy prospector just shatters completely. The reality of the gold camps was gritty and awful. Prospectors were living in these flimsy, unsanitary tent cities, the food was terrible, and the job itself. It was 12-hour shifts of back-breaking labor. You were standing waist-deep in freezing river water, shoveling heavy gravel and smashing rocks with pickaxes all day long. The conditions were so relentlessly harsh that records show 1 out of every 5 miners who arrived in 1849 died within 6 months. 1 in 5?
Part 5. Prices gone wild.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happened to the local economy, because even if you were lucky enough to strike gold, keeping it was practically impossible. You had this massive wave of people pouring in with money, but a huge shortage of basic supplies. The result? Total hyperinflation. Supply and demand went entirely off the rails. Look at these costs translated into modern dollars. It's mind-blowing. In 1849 San Francisco, a basic can of peas would cost you the equivalent of $181 today. One single egg? 26 bucks. If a hungry miner just wanted a decent breakfast, it's going to set them back the modern equivalent of $1,294. No way, right? It really shows how quickly a miner's hard-earned gold dust could just poof, vanish, just from trying to survive day to day.
And that brings us to one of the most brilliant, vital takeaways from the whole gold rush. On one side, you've got the gritty, exhausted prospector freezing in the river. On the other side, you have Sam Brannan. Remember him? The guy running through the streets screaming about the gold? Well, here's the twist. Brannan didn't make his fortune digging in the dirt. Nope. Right before he made his big, loud announcement, he quietly went around and bought up literally every single shovel he could find in San Francisco. Then, when the frenzy hit and everyone desperately needed a shovel, he sold them at a massive markup. Sam Brannan didn't mine a single ounce of gold, but he became California's very first millionaire.
That's the real secret of the gold rush. The folks who consistently made the big fortunes were the entrepreneurs who mined the miners. Women, for example, were a minority in the camps, but they found huge financial success by stepping in to run boarding houses, wash clothes, and cook meals. And we can't talk about this without mentioning a guy named Levi Strauss. He looked at these miners and realized, hey, they need really tough pants that aren't going to rip during a 12-hour shift. That realization led him to invent and sell a whole lot of durable blue jeans, a real game changer.
Part 6. Birth of the Golden State.
So, the crucial point is that by 1855, the era of the lone guy panning for gold in a stream was pretty much over. All the easy river gold was gone, leaving only massive mining operations that used high-pressure water jets to blast out what was left. In the end, the true winner of those 7 wild years wasn't the individual 49er. It was the macro economy and the United States itself. I mean, the gold rush brought 300,000 people out west. It transformed an untamed frontier into a booming, diverse cultural melting pot practically overnight. That massive population explosion put California on the fast track, making it the 31st state in 1850. It practically forced the creation of the Transcontinental Railroad, and all that wealth yanked out of the ground stimulated global markets from Britain all the way to China. California truly earned its title as the Golden State, and today its economy is bigger than most entire countries.
Which leaves us with a totally fascinating parallel to our modern world. Whether we're talking about the dot-com boom, the wild rise of cryptocurrencies, or the massive explosion of artificial intelligence right now, the supply and demand lessons of 1849 are absolutely still in play. So as you look at the economic rushes happening today, I really want you to ask yourself, in today's world, who are the ones standing out in the freezing river panning for gold, and who are the ones quietly getting rich selling the shovels? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.